Talk Talk were one of the great bands of the 1980s, and conversation about the band usually centres around the main frontman and mastermind, Mark Hollis. But the bass player Paul Webb is a massively talented musician, and some of the Talk Talk grooves are not only catchy earworms, they're also hugely inventive both melodically and rhythmically. So today, let's have a look at the song It's My Life from 1984. There are basically 4 riffs to learn, and as we break them down, you'll see just how important the bass parts are to the song as they weave a sophisticated journey around the chord progression, the beats, and the bar lines. As always, the tab and drum tracks are there over at the TalkingBass website, so just check out the link in the description to play along. We've also got a huge summer sale at the moment with 30% discount on all the courses, so get on over to the store to check out the courses on everything from beginner bass to reading music to technique, improvisation, music theory, slap bass, and everything in between. Just check out the link below for more details. Okay, so this song opens up with this groove. So we're in the key of E flat, and first of all, let's have a look at the rhythm, because that's really important to this groove pretty much all the way through. So we come in on beat 2, 1, 2, then we've got 3 and then 4 and. So the and of 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. So that and of 4 there is a main part of this groove. We're anticipating beat 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. Then adding the notes in there, we've got 1, 2, 3, and. So it's E flat and D flat, 6th fret and 4th fret on the A string. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. The and of 4, we've got the B flat, 6th fret of the E string. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. So second bar, same rhythm. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. Same notes at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, and. Then on the and of 4, we've got the F at the 3rd fret of the D string. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. So again, we're anticipating beat 1. So that F there is a part of the chord in that next bar. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. Hear how it's anticipating that beat 1. So bar 3, same rhythm again, but this time we're on the F, and we're going to be moving down to the E flat at the 6th fret of the A string. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then the A flat at the 6th fret of the D string. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. Okay, so you've got to get into that rhythmic framework. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, anticipating the next bar. But this time, that F is leading us into the B flat at the 3rd fret of the G string. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. So we've got the. So this time we're on beat 1, okay, in the next bar. So from this perspective, you can see that B flat that we hit on beat 1 of that bar would be the thing that we would play in the first bar, right on beat 1 at the start. But it's just missing, so it comes in on that beat 2. So that's the main groove. So now let's just try that very slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And. So that's the intro, and then the vocals come in. When the vocals come in, it's the same groove, but just with a very slight alteration. So we played this before. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4. And instead of playing the F leading into the B flat on beat 1, we actually anticipate with that B flat. So we don't play the F first. So let's have a listen to that with the track. So, as you heard there, first time round, we anticipate with that B flat, and on the second time, we use the F to lead into it. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So we play that 8-bar sequence twice, and then on the second time we add this little transition to move into the pre-chorus. So here on that final time we have 1, we have the F, and instead of moving up to that B flat, we come back to that A flat 6th fret of the D string. So then we play the E again on the offbeat, so then we come down with this fill, E, D, B, so 7th and 5th frets A string, 7th fret on the E string, and then we just have, so it's open E to F sharp, open A to the B. Now there are multiple different ways to play this. I've seen it played like that before, that might be how he plays it, but you know, it, from a bass guitar perspective, it does fit quite well just as open strings there. So technically there's not much to see here, it's easy work on the hands. The main issue will be the timing and your note control. Keep count when you get started and you should eventually be able to feel the groove with those accented notes anticipating each bar. It's great practice in terms of syncopated rhythm. Now in terms of the harmony here, we're in the key of E flat. And this is where you see quite a lot of the clever musicianship in Talk Talk. So we're in E flat and the chord progression moves from E flat, then to D flat over F, and then to F minor over A flat. So not the most common of chord progressions. And this is where we see the importance of the bass here. Over the E flat, we're outlining that flat 7. We've got that D flat in there, that's the flat 7th, so it's not major, it's E flat mixolydian. So we're into mixolydian territory. Mixolydian is a major scale with a flattened 7th. So nothing crazy here, but mixolydian has a certain sound when compared to the normal major scale. So normally in the key of E flat, we'd be using the E flat major scale, but here we've got that D flat in there. It's just a different sound. Then we actually create the interest in the D flat chord by playing the F. Okay, so we've got that F there over that D flat chord, which gives us this first inversion D flat. Okay, so instead of E flat to D flat, we actually get E flat to D flat over F. Listen to how that's a totally different sound. As opposed to, and we get that simple ascent from E flat to F rather than the descent from E flat to D flat. Totally different sound. So if I just compare the root notes, so we would have normally have had but now we've got then the chord progression moves to F minor, which is chord 2 in the key, but the bass plays A flat. So we're moving up to that 6th fret on the D string. Again, the 3rd of the F minor. Okay, so we're on that A flat, which again makes it another first inversion. And again, it has a different kind of sound. And it's this kind of writing in Talk Talk that when coupled with the instrumentation, it gives us that almost bleak emotional expression. So now instead of the chords E flat, D flat, and F minor, with the bass line, we get the following. E flat to D flat over F, and then F minor over A flat. That has a totally different sound to. Then when we reach that final time round, we've got that E major chord with the run into the pre-chorus. That switch to the E chord could be a jolting move taking us into the key of A minor. Okay, so we're moving into A minor in the next section. But notice the note that we stick on, that A flat, now becomes the third of the E major chord. So it's the third of that F minor, and then it becomes the third of the E major chord. So that's a great bit of writing. Okay, so now let's look at the next section, which is the pre-chorus. Now, there are a bunch of different ways to play this. Paul tends to play this on a fretless bass, hence the out-of-tune note that you might hear on the opening line of the song. I've watched his hands a little on some of the live recordings, so I know some of the frets that he's using, or not, with the fretless, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as the notes, rhythms, and feel are intact. So, I'm going to use a few open strings in here, but, you know, you can use the fretted notes as well. You know, just find the way that you prefer. So, we have... So we begin with that. So we start on the A, so you can either play it at the 5th fret of the E string, which I do sometimes do, but you might find it easiest to play it with the open A string. So whether he did that or not, I mean, he was playing it on fretless, so, you know, open strings do work better on fretless, but who knows. So then we've got D and E, 5th to 7th fret on the A string, and then up to the A at the 7th fret of the D string. And you have to cut that quite short there. Then we come back down, G and the E there, so 5th fret D string, 7th fret on the A string. Then we have the G, 3rd fret of the E string, and we come up. So open A, B to C. You can also use the 5th fret of the E string for the A. So again, we're anticipating rhythmically. So we're anticipating there, we're on the and of 4 again for that G. And then we're hitting that C there, 3rd fret of the A string again, an 8th note early. So then C, D, 3rd fret, 5th fret on the A string. And then down to the F, 1st fret of the E string. Again, anticipating an 8th note early. Then when we're on the F, so 3, 4, and we have C, D, F. Again, you can play C, D, F, 3rd to 5th fret on the A string and then the F at the 3rd fret. Here I'm using C, 3rd fret A string and then the open D string leading to the F. It doesn't matter which one you use. Then we come back down, D, back down to the C. And then back down to the F again. Back up through it. And then, same kind of pattern on the G. Again, 8th note early. So. G, D, E, and up to the G at the 5th fret of the D string. So 3rd fret E string, 3rd fret E string, 5th fret A string, 2nd fret on the D string, and then up to the 5th fret on the D string. So. Then we're back where we started. So those 4 bars slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we repeat those 4 bars with a slight difference at the end. So, very slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of the G there at the 5th fret of the D string, we're actually hitting the A there at the 5th fret of the E string. So that's leading us into the chorus. So. Again, an 8th note early. So again, technically, it's nothing too hard to play. You might have to look out for those open strings that are used in there, so you need to choke those off when moving to the fretted notes, but most of it is pretty self-explanatory. Now, in terms of the harmony and theory here, we have the chords A minor. So we're in the key of A minor here, so A minor, F major, G major, so that's a very standard chord progression. We've got chord 1 and then it's chord flat 6 to flat 7, which you get a lot. So, but instead of moving up to the A minor again, we move up to the C major, which brings us back round to F major and G major again. So all pretty standard fare in terms of an A minor chord progression. So in outlining that A minor chord, we have the A root note, then we come up through D, E, and back up to the A. That D to E, that fourth to fifth in there, it's just an approach note into the fifth, but it's very much a Steve Harris from Iron Maiden kind of move. He uses that kind of move a lot. Now, because we're hitting that A there on the and of 2, and the chord changes to F major at that point, again, we are creating an inversion. It's actually an F over A. So instead of that F major there, we're going to have... So that's an F major over A. So and then to the G. So we come down then through the G and the E, leading us into the G, which is the root note of our G major chord. Then just a straight lead up to the C, which again is the root note of that C major. So down into the F, root note on the F, but this time we've got this little pattern here, which if I played up the octave, it's pretty much a major 6 chord outline. Very much a kind of soul Motown kind of move. You get it a lot in that kind of stuff. So, and then we just move that up to the G again. Like I said, it's got a kind of Motown vibe to it, which, you know, is very different from the talk, you know, like electro kind of post New Romantics kind of sound, but there it is. And then all of that is just repeated again. So when it finishes on the second time, we land on the A, and that's leading us into the chorus. So now for the chorus, we have... So we're on the A, 5th fret of the E string, which we played an 8th note early again. So again, we got that syncopated anticipation. So then C, D, so that's going to be 3rd fret and 5th fret on the A string. Then we're onto the D there, 5th fret of the A string, again anticipated. So played twice. Down to the G, again anticipated. And then A, C, A, so. Then C, again anticipated, 3rd fret of the A string, so. Back to the A, round and round. So it plays around 4 times, and then on the final time, so. We land on the F, which is on an F minor chord, which you hold for 2 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, technically not much to see here. You can just use the 4th and 1st fingers there. So I'm using the 4th finger, the pinky, for taking the 5th frets, and I'm taking the 1st finger for taking the 3rd fret. So then you don't have to stretch much. So nice clean technique. And then for the bass line, it's pretty much just outlining that chord progression. A, C there, which is the 3rd of the chord, which leads us nicely up into the D. Syncopated notes there on the D. Again, anticipating on the G. And then to lead us up to the C, we're actually using the A, which again has a little bit of a kind of Motown twinge. You've got that kind of pentatonic vibe going on. So then on the C again, syncopated notes, on the offbeats, and then anticipating on the A again. Now, like I said, after 4 times through the riff, we land on the F, first fret of the E string to outline the F minor chord, which, as per the verse progression, leads us back into the E flat. So we're moving back into E flat. So we were in the key of E flat, we've moved into the key of A minor, and now we're moving back into E flat again. The F chord in A minor is usually F major, so that switch to the minor makes for a smooth transition and a pivot chord between the keys. So if we're in, like I said, in A minor, if we play an F chord, it's going to be F major, which is what we're playing in the chord progression. You know, there it is. That's F major. But when we switch it to, you can hear, you suddenly get that little bit of a sadness in there. It turns minor and it sends us back into that E flat as per the chord progression that we had. It finished on an F minor chord. So that's our pivot chord. So that's the main 3 riffs, but we also have the middle section after the second chorus, so the kind of instrumental section. Here we have a change to the previous F that we ended on the chorus, and instead we play a B flat, okay? Which leads us into this B flat minor instrumental section. So we've moved from the key of E flat, then to the key of A minor, and now we're in B flat minor. So here we've got the same kind of rhythm that we had in the opening, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and, okay, a lot of anticipating on that and of 4. But like I said, we're starting on the B flat, so we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on beat 2, we've got that B flat again. Then we have the A flat, 4th fret of the E string leading back to that B flat, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Then we drop down to the 5th of the chord, that F, 1st fret E string. So this is like when we played, remember we played the B flat below, same kind of thing. Then second bar, same again, 1. This time we hit the F, 3rd fret of the D string on that and a 4. And then we've got that same rhythm again, but we're on the F minor chord, so 1. Okay, so F, A flat, B flat, and then down to the F, 1st fret, 4th fret, E string, then 1st fret on the A string. Back down to the F, 1st fret of the E string on the and of 4 again. 1. Then same bar again with a slight difference. 1. A flat instead of the F, so 4th fret of the E string. So those 4 bars slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Then on the final bar, we shift to E major again to move us back to the key of A minor for the pre-chorus, okay? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Land on that A flat there, on the and a 4 on the 3rd bar, which now turns into the 3rd of the E major again. So really cool little move, and then we've got that fill again to lead us back into. So again, this is an awesome use of that note, that A flat there, working as a pivot for moving from one key to another. And the cool thing is, we've used that same move, A flat, sort of turning into the 3rd of the E major, in moving from the E flat key to A minor, and then the B flat key to A minor. So it works in both instances. So that's It's My Life. Like I said, it sounds pretty simple on first hearing, but this bass line is like the night sky. The longer you look at it, the more twinkly details appear. Okay, so that's the first in-depth basslines breakdown I've done in quite a while. I used to do loads of these. Let me know what other basslines you'd like me to analyze, and also check out this video for a lesson on the absolute genius of Motown legend James Jamerson, with a look at the Stevie Wonder classic I Was Made to Love Her. I go deep into the lines, so check it out, and I'll see you next week.